Guys, if your energy, focus, or sex drive isn't what it used to be, it's not just getting older. In our Honest Truth Masterclass, we break down what's really going on and how to turn it around. Register now at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/honest.
DSW, Designer Shoe Warehouse, is the one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. With sneakers, boots, and everything in between for every style, mood, and occasion, you'll definitely find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. DSW has what you need, but more importantly, they have what you didn't even know you wanted. You never know what you'll find at DSW. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
From Estero, Florida, this is a One Extraordinary Marriage show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. Creators of the 6 Pillars of Intimacy, I'm Tony DiLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Alisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the HUG hotline at 858-876-5663, or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're talking about why sexual intimacy fades in long-term marriage and what's really happening beneath the surface when couples feel distant in the bedroom.
And there's a quote that I actually shared with some clients a while back talking about this, and it says, I said, desire doesn't just disappear. It goes quiet when it doesn't feel safe to speak. And I think as we're talking about sexual intimacy fading in the bedroom, it really ties into this. And we're going to be talking about that in today's episode. But we start every episode with a hug. And a hug is really an opportunity for us to celebrate you, to celebrate the one family, the areas where you've taken action and created change in your marriage. And this hug comes from a 5-star iTunes review that we received that starts with, "What can I do?" was the topic of an episode at the beginning of 2018. Oh my gosh, that was 8 years ago. My husband and I were headed for divorce during a highly stressful time of life with a newborn, and I was ready to quit. As I sat alone right after the new year, I searched marriage podcast, and God gave me this show. I've thanked God many times and shared this show with friends, but had never written a review. So sorry. Here I am nearly 8 years later, still married to the same wonderful man, and he has never even listened to the podcast. That simple question posed back in 2018 still rings in my ears, and I truly credit y'all along with the Lord Jesus for saving my marriage. We now have 2 children, and we'll celebrate our 12th anniversary next year, and I will be forever thankful for the One Extraordinary Marriage show.
Wow, that is so amazing, and thank you. I mean, 8 years later to think like, hey, I should leave something here. Not only blesses us, but it blesses the one family and so many more. And number one, congratulations to you guys to be at year 4 looking at divorce.
Yeah.
Alisa and I were at that point. We were at year 4 when we were looking at divorce that first time, and to be now at year 12, 2 children, happily married. And I want to just say something too real quick, and I think you picked up on it as well, that her husband has never listened to the One Extraordinary Marriage show. And it was a question we posed back in 2018, which is part of the 6 Pillars of Intimacy, the book. In every chapter, what can I do? Because it goes right in line with who we are here at One Extraordinary Marriage. Like, what can I do? How can I be intentional? How can I take action? And I just love it. Just to see the change 8 years later. I mean, sometimes we see it like that, and other times we don't get something for years to come. And it's just like, wow. Thank you, Jesus.
Well, and just piggybacking off of that, I do think it's important to note that one person can make a change in a marriage.
Yep.
And,
Amen.
You know, we've known this from when we show up at cruises or when we're at live events and things like that. There are a lot of people that will show up to something that have never listened to the podcast. And it's because of your actions, because of your interactions with your spouse or with somebody else that actually make that happen. Yep. So kudos to just taking action in your own marriage. And, you know, as Tony said at the top of this episode, we are talking about why sexual intimacy fades in long-term marriage and what's really happening beneath the surface when couples are feeling distant. And I want to just start from the get-go saying this is not about blame. This is not about, being broken. It's about understanding the impact that emotional safety, connection, stress, and even your unspoken stories, the narratives in your head, how they all shape desire over time. Because a lot of times I think what happens is people believe, and I've seen this because I think I'm closing in on like 650 couples.
Wow.
That I worked with over the last million years. It feels like that sometimes. It feels like I've been coaching forever. It's hard to believe it's been like 14 years. So crazy. But a lot of couples believe that when the sexual intimacy fades, that there's something wrong, right? It's all about lost chemistry, or we're mismatched, or, my personal favorite, which I think TV and movies has definitely overemphasized or exaggerated. And that narrative is, well, this is just what happens when you've been married for a long time. I just want to be really clear. We have couples that come on the 6 Pillars of Intimacy Marriage Getaway, married 40 plus, up into 50 years. They are still sexually intimate. I'm just letting y'all know it doesn't have to end. That's a narrative that is just out there.
Can I also say something here, though, as well?
Yeah.
This is what happens when you've been married for a long time. That could be 5 years. It could be 50 years.
That is true. That is true.
It really can. I think that's another thing. I mean, this is just what happens. I think I can remember when Alisa and I were probably in that 5-year ranges, like even 10 years. Like, this is just what happens. We got a child. We got this. We got that going on. This is just what it is. And I can say, we're 29 years married and have gone through that probably a couple of times. And so it doesn't matter if you've been married a few years or, a few decades.
Mm-hmm. And, it becomes this almost like an avalanche or a cascading effect where, the sexual intimacy starts to fade, and, that's happening because life's full, and, you've got these constant stressors, or you've got conflict that hasn't been resolved, or, you're just in this place. Maybe you have just like the hug, you've got little kids and touch is just super rushed or not even happening at all. And you get into this place where the sexual intimacy just feels like pressure instead of an invitation to connect. And it gets really difficult because it's not, and I've seen this in so many coaching situations, it's not that couples don't love each other. Time and time again, when I'm having these conversations with folks, the topic's been avoided, but not the love. Like I will talk to them and I'll be like, well, tell me your love story. Tell me this, tell me that. And you can see it and feel it in the words that are being chosen, in the conversations that's happening. But something has kind of like boxed up the desire, boxed up that sexual connection, and it just kind of been like, okay, well, let's just put duct tape on it and shove it in the back of the garage. And, we'll just leave it there. And, I think it's really important to know that when sexual intimacy fades, couples don't just lose the act of sexual intercourse. When sexual intimacy is not part of a marriage, over time, one or both spouses will lose confidence. They will lose closeness. They will lose emotional safety. And I know safety is a word that gets bantered around, but when it's not comfortable, like when this is a part of the marriage that's not there, that can force people to withdraw within themselves, because they start to write these narratives. They start to have these stories going, I'm not wanted, or I'm too much, or I'm not enough, or my spouse doesn't care anymore. And those are the stories that shape the relationship. I mean, I think I've thought these thoughts. I know I've thought these thoughts. This is not just hypothetical. This is like I know, and I've been on the other side, right? Because Tony has been for the majority of our marriage, Tony's been the higher desire spouse. So there have been times when I'm like, he is too much, right? Like, this is like, I can't do this because it's too much for me.
Yeah. And on the other side of this, I can recall. And when I say I can recall, this could be something that I recall like within the last year or so, as well as, decades ago. But I'm not wanted, or, they don't care about me, as in Alisa doesn't care about me. I can remember feeling those tensions at different times. It is something that I know that we in our own marriage have had to address time and time again to experience that sexual intimacy that we desire. And so, as Alisa said at the beginning, it's not that this is any reason to bring shame upon you, that you're broken or anything. It's an ebb and flow of the marriage journey we're on. And I can say for a fact that I have been there. And I could say I've been there probably in the last year at some point in time, that Alisa and I have faced probably these thoughts, maybe myself, maybe her, maybe both of us at different times. And I don't think it's going to end, but we are just like you, continuing to work on our own marriage so that we can strengthen it. We can strengthen these pillars. And so, yeah, it's just so interesting when you bring these things up sometimes. It's like, oh, wow, like right now we're in a good spot. But, if we did this episode 6 months from now and we're in a different place, how does it resonate? How does it feel? Like, what's the tension I would feel inside? Would I be sweating? Would I be... You know what I mean? Because if there is that tension where we're talking about this and it's like, well, yeah, Lisa, you don't want me. I was trying to cuddle up to you last night and you pulled away.
Right.
I can feel that tension of like, oh, I'm not wanted. Fortunately for us last night, Alisa was more cuddly and we had a wonderful session. Session.
What the heck? But I you know what? This was not in any of my notes to even discuss, but I do think what you just said and what the hug, that fact that hug is from somebody that started listening in 2018. One of the things that we have done over the years, and of course now the podcast is 16 years old, but we've made these old episodes still available to you. So if that happens, right, maybe the two of you are in a good place right now, but 6 months from now, like Tony said, you're like, wow, something feels a little off. You may come back to a podcast episode and re-listen to it and use the language, use the thoughts to actually initiate that conversation with your spouse. Because, people still do that, you guys. There are 16 years of episodes, right? And, coming back to this, it's like when you get into that place, whether it's, kind of what Tony was going through, what I was going through, you start to get into this cycle of emotional withdrawal, of resentment, of avoiding touch or fear of initiating and distance. And then both people stop acting, right? Like both stop moving towards each other. Nobody's initiating anything. Nobody's connecting. Everybody feels alone. And when you're in that place, you can't get better unless the actions change, right? Sex isn't going to improve because you try harder to want it or you try harder to initiate. No, it's going to change because the two of you start changing your conversations. Right? It's going to, it's why so many people have said over the years that the One Extraordinary Marriage show has helped them communicate about sex or normalize talking about desire or to feel closer emotionally or to get out of this place of silence and into a place of curiosity, because desire grows in environments of trust and not tension. Right? If you're high tension, unless it's sexually charged tension where the two of you are just both aroused, that's not going to, that's where desire is going to come from, a place of tension. But if it's the conflict tension, if it's the we haven't talked in a while, we haven't touched in a while, it is going to be very, very hard for desire to suddenly be like, baby, I want you. It starts with getting into this place of saying, hey, what's going on right now? Getting into a place, an environment where honesty is welcome and the pressure can be removed, because all of the other stuff, the cycles that you're in, you know this, we know it because we've lived it. Those cycles that are dysfunctional don't work.
Yeah, truly.
You have to actually adjust and change the cycle. One of the phrases my coaching clients hear a lot is you have to interrupt the cycle. You have to start looking at what is our dance. And I promise you, here's just a little Alisa coaching. I promise you, if I asked you what the cycle was around this, you could actually list out who does what and when and where everything breaks down. And then I'd look at you and say, okay, how do we interrupt that? And that's what we want to do today, because when you get into this place of starting to rebuild that safety right now, right here in this season, what shifts in your marriage? What is possible for the two of you? And we're going to talk about that after this break. Does this sound familiar? You indulge a bit during the holidays, and once the calendar flips, January becomes all about eating better, resetting routines, and getting focused on health and nutrition. Well, you're not alone. That post-holiday slump often comes with decision fatigue, mixed messages, and the pressure to do everything perfectly on day one. Knowing where to start can feel overwhelming. That changed for me with Hungry Root. What I love most is how easy it is to personalize. 2 servings? Done. Feeding more people? Also done. Swapping proteins, checking recipes, and seeing every step ahead of time removes the guesswork. This isn't just a box of random ingredients. It's thought-filled meal planning and grocery shopping already handled. Everything shows up at my door, and all I have to do is cook. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/marriage and use code marriage. That's hungryroot.com/marriage, code marriage, to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. After the holidays, I often feel blah. You know that post-holiday fog that makes motivation feel so distant? Well, it's time for a reset, but not something complicated. This is why I love Prolon's 5-day mimicking diet. It offers a structured, science-backed way to reset your body, habits, and energy. Developed with USC's Longevity Institute and backed by decades of research, Prolon supports fat-focused weight loss, metabolic health, energy, and skin appearance. Key when you're trying to feel better again. The best part for me is that everything is prepackaged and ready to go. No planning, no guesswork. I can simply start and get results. Just in time for the new year, Prolon is offering OEM listeners 15% off their 5-day nutrition program for your post-holiday glow-up when you go to prolonlife.com/OEM. That's PROLON life.com/OEM for 15% off. prolonlife.com/OEM. We're back, and we're talking about what it looks like to rebuild safety in order to rekindle sexual intimacy. And I want to just maybe burst a bubble or two here that the rebuilding of your sexual intimacy is not going to start in your bedroom. It's not going to start with the two of you naked. So anybody that's like, well, shoot, let's just jump in bed. That's not where it's going to start.
Can I share something real quick?
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about this yesterday. So Alisa and I were sexually intimate yesterday, and it was wonderful. Here's something that I've begun to realize a little bit more. When Alisa and I engage in our recreational intimacy activities, and it doesn't need to necessarily be like we're going on a date or we're just hanging out and having fun. Like yesterday, we got back from church. We had an amazing session or amazing time at church, did some errands, and we got back, and it was cooler here in Florida. It's a little too cold right now in Florida. But we didn't sit. We took time to reorganize our garage.
We took hours.
And and this is something like even is new to us, as many of you know, like we just bought our place in August of last year, the first time that we've owned a home in 15 years. And I've noticed that we're doing some home projects here and there. We're doing some things. And I'm finding it, though, that us working together in this way, which is something we haven't done, I really think has allowed us to have these moments of connection, conversation, having to address like, well, you want that there. Well, I don't want that there, so we're having to deal with some things and work through them. And I would say it's recreational intimacy. It's an activity. We're not just sitting and doing our own things. We're engaging one another in this. And so I just wanted to throw that in there because, and for some of you may not be like, oh, we haven't done that in a long time. Maybe it's time to go find just a project around the house or something to go do that you're both doing it together. You're something we've talked about a lot. You're on the same team. Mm-hmm. And I really felt like yesterday, even though there are times when I was like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, Alisa. That's not going to work in my head. And maybe I even said it out loud. Maybe. Just maybe. We were on the same team. We were trying to make our garage as, what's the word I'm looking for? Just as efficient. I don't know if it was efficient.
Yeah, I mean, just side note, Tony and I we like organization. Tony likes organization way more than I do. Well documented. But like we just had stuff that was like cluttery in our garage. It didn't have a home. And you all know some of the things that got put on shelves are going to end up on different shelves once I put them back. But for the time being, everything has a place on Tony's shelves. And we only had to move the suitcases that were in the garage about 8 times to find a good home for them. But to the point that you're making, Tony, I've told a lot of my coaching clients over the years to engage in recreational intimacy and as a means to getting back to one another, because when you're doing something together, it is really key. And I think the other big part of it, and this is why you can't just like be sitting around doing recreational intimacy, is that we weren't on our phones.
No.
Like we were moving, we were doing stuff. Yeah, if we had to look up something, but then the phone was back down or, off to the side or whatever, because we were just like trying to organize and work on something together. And I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. And I'm wondering so we talk about the tension of sexual intimacy, and we'll get to what we got to get to. I understand. I wonder if the tension of sexual intimacy, when you don't have that, right, it all comes to a head around our sexual intimacy. And so it's like, if it's not exactly the way I expected it, or I can't talk about it correctly, I feel like we failed. We didn't perform as we should, or something of that nature. But out there could be tension, and there was tension, but we were able to work through it. And so when we were able to be done with it, we could look back and go, we did a good job. Like we had our moments, we had our time where we were just sort of like, but all of that was out there. And so as the evening progressed and we had time to ourselves, one child is traveling, one child wasn't here, you and I could be in a state where it's like, the tension is gone. Like we already had that, that little, like just the sandpaper rubbing against one another. And we could just be like, cool, like that's all done. Let's go have fun. And I don't know, again, this is something new even for myself and for you, I think, because we are picking up more of these homeowner activities.
Gosh, you guys, we spend like every weekend involves a trip to Lowe's. I feel like I'm waiting for Tony's.
I got my $5 reward from Lowe's last night.
Tony's on a first name basis with the some of the staff at McDonald's. I'm waiting for us to get on a first name basis with the people at Lowe's. Fortunately, their employees are always in different departments, so maybe that won't happen. Oh, you know somebody at Lowe's?
No, I don't. For those of you who don't know, I love McDonald's unsweet iced tea.
It's all he gets from McDonald's.
Almost on a daily basis. If you order something from our shop, I actually fulfill those here at the house. I believe in doing that because I like to pray over it. I like to sign it. I like to let you know that we see you. I do believe in it. It's also a way for me to get out of the house, go to the post office, and do a little work from McDonald's. And while I'm at McDonald's, I get to know people because they see me. I get to know their lives. I get to hear about them. And to me, that is how we bless people in our community. And so my wife, my children think it is absolutely hilarious that I know certain people. But for me, it's just a way to know somebody in our community who I probably wouldn't see otherwise.
Sure.
And so I know it's okay. Like I get harassed by my wife and my children about this all the time.
I got called queen. There is no harassment here. This is
when I took her and Alex to McDonald's.
It's on his birthday.
On his birthday, yes. One of the people I know there very well was very nice to both Alex and Alisa.
She called me his queen.
Yes.
Very nice.
All right.
Like anytime I go somewhere, I get called queen. Okay, so we're circling back to what to do now.
Let's do what
rebuilding
to
sexual
do now.
Intimacy.
Let's do it.
I think what you mentioned there, as far as being able to have those conversations and do things outside of, like for us yesterday, it was doing stuff in the garage. I think that's, as it ties into this, the first thing that you want to start practicing is talking about sex without just trying to come with solutions and trying to fix it. So often it's like, well, if we just had sex more, or if you would just desire me, or if you would show me that you desire me, or if you would do that, like all of these performance-based actions, instead of stepping into a place of, hey, what's going on with our sexual connection right now? Where are you at? And don't get into this, like your spouse says something and you've got to defend yourself, or you've got to correct them, or you've got to come up with a solution. Like, let's just have a conversation. How do you feel about this right now? And then zip the lip. Go back to first grade and zip the lip and just let your spouse talk. Hear where their heart is, right? Or you, if you're on the other side and your spouse asks you, actually share. Because sometimes this distance shows up when we aren't willing to say, hey, this is where I'm struggling. And you just internalize it and they're like, hey, what's going on? And you won't say anything. And I get it, because sometimes the dynamic's been really hard. It's why people come to coaching, right? Sometimes the dynamic's been really hard and they don't know how to talk about it themselves. But try first the two of you having the conversation. And if it doesn't work, consider coaching, right? Get into that place. Start looking at what does it look like to separate desire from pressure. Like when these conversations, and I remember this, oh my gosh, do I remember this?
Can you just share with us when you say that? Because I think that's an interesting one. What is the desire and what is the pressure? So if you can just share that real quickly and what you're talking about.
Well,
there.
So I remember back in the early days when you would touch me, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, when you would touch me, and I thought every touch, every conversation, about, like everything was about getting me to have sex in that moment.
Okay.
Instead of getting into this place where, like, you know, we can talk about sex, but it doesn't mean we have to have sex right now. I can touch you, but it doesn't mean we have to have sex right now. Like learning how to express desire, whether that's through conversation or talking about conversation, or even, you know, there's a reason physical intimacy is separate from sexual intimacy, because you can still express desire for your spouse through your touch, but it doesn't have to be something that leads to sex. And I think so often when there's been a huge disconnect, it feels like every conversation, every touch, every, like, let's go to bed, is a setup to have sex.
The interaction.
Instead of, hey, like, I love you and I want to be near you. I love you and I want to have a conversation with you. I love you and these things are important to me. And if it goes to sex and we both like are in that place, sure. But the idea isn't like, I'm going to have this conversation with you because we're having sex right now.
And I think this is something that I believe we have shared many a times, and I think worked well for us, is that we took those conversations out of the house, out of the bedroom. I remember sometimes doing it on drives, walking, talk, in places where there's no way we're going to go have sex right there, right now.
Right.
Now, if you're on your farm and you're on the tractor and nobody's around, that's a different story. When you're driving down the 5 freeway, you know, from Orange County to San Diego, the likelihood that we are going to pull off to the side of the road in broad daylight and go be sexually intimate isn't going to happen. If you choose to do that and you get caught, that's on you. Like, you got to follow your own local laws and everything else. But I do believe if we take it out of the house, take it out of the bedroom, that allows us to take the pressure off. And that's something we did have to work on, because before that, every conversation was in the bedroom or in the house. And I could see where you felt very like, great. So the only reason Tony is bringing this up right now is because he wants to have sex.
Right.
But when we took it out of there, it just allowed you and I to just flow and not have any, like, we may have had sex that evening or at some point in the day, but it wasn't right there in that moment.
Right. It wasn't conversation sex. It was conversation outside of the bedroom, a lot of times even outside of the house, and then later, because we felt connected. You know, and the other part of this too, and I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but I need to land on it, is y'all need to get back into physical intimacy, non-sexual touch. Because a lot of times when those narratives are going, when all of those thoughts are going, we get into this place where we're like, I am not touching you because either I'm afraid of getting rejected, or I am not touching you because I'm afraid that if I touch you, you're going to take that as a green light, you know, fast track to the bedroom and to sexual intimacy. And so it's having those conversations. Hey, can we get back to just the non-sexual touch? Can we get back to holding hands or sitting close or hugging or even snuggling together, so that we learn our bodies again and we learn how to connect?
And I do want to say this, and we should have said this earlier in the episode, this can go either way.
Yes.
Wives could have that higher desire. Husbands could have that higher desire. We have seen both. So this can go both ways. And the way it could look, and I just want to share this quickly, because Alisa at times, even now, can in moments be more high desire than myself. And as a husband who is trying to think about, and we've documented it here, about being able to have an erection at 52 is different than when I was in my 20s or 30s. And so when she does that, in my head, I can feel the pressure of not being able to get an erection. Mm-hmm. And so then I can push her away because I'm like, whoa. Like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Like, I need some foreplay here. I need some time to get to that point. And so I just want to make sure we all understand this can go both either husband or wife at any point in time, and maybe even at different times in seasons and stages of your marriage.
Mm-hmm. When sex starts to fade, I truly believe, because I've had so many conversations, it's not because the two of you don't care about each other. It's because there are things that are not being talked about. There are things that have been buried for a really long time, and they show up in the disconnect. They show up in the, distance between the two of you. And, it's time to take a long, hard look and start thinking, well, just like that hug, what can I do? What can I do? If my spouse never listens to this podcast, what can I do? And what are the actions that are going to move me even one baby step closer? Baby steps are another language that I used in 6 Pillars of Intimacy. But what's the baby steps that's going to move me one closer to where I want to be?
Yeah. Hey, in marriage, sex can fade at times. Doesn't mean it has to stay there forever and ever. Amen. You can begin to address it as we shared with you here today. What we would encourage both of you to do, or one of you, if you're the only one listening, is to take action. Take one of those steps that we shared about. Bring it to your spouse. Make a change. See what happens. Engage with one another emotionally, in your emotional intimacy, your physical intimacy, and your sexual intimacy, so that you can create your extraordinary marriage. You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. We are truly honored and blessed to have you part of the One family. We'll see you next week. Love you guys.